Okay. All right, we'll give it a sec. All right. All right. So you ready, Pops?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
All right. So we'll go ahead and kick off. Hello and welcome to this month's edition of TLIG Live. I am Ashley and I'm the creator of the This Life is Gold and This Life is Ghetto series. The ultimate vision and the purpose of this movement is to target forbidden and uncomfortable stigmas that greatly impact our family units. One of my statements is life can be ghetto out here, but it does not have to remain that way. And so we'll be covering topics such as forgiveness, healing, trauma, mental health, divorce, and the like. And so, whether you will be joining us live or you'll be catching the replay, thank you for your support. If you can take a moment to like, share, and comment. And if you are on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button. As a reminder or an update, TLIG Live will be every third Monday of the month, and I'll have various guests with me. And so for our first TLIG Live, of course, I would ask no one other than my father to be my first guest. We recently wrote and we co-wrote a book together called This Life is Ghetto, a candid conversation between a father and adult daughter navigating rejection, divorce, and daddy issues. It is available online wherever books are sold. Make sure you check us out. It was a pleasure of co-writing that with my father. So it's available on Audible, paperback, and even ebook. You can go over to Amazon.com and that will take you to the audiobook, even the paperback, or you can just Google This Life is Ghetto to get that information. All right. So, Daddy, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm as ready as I'm going to be. This is all right. Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and kick this thing off. And so my father and I, we will be bouncing some questions off of each other as people join. We will answer those as well. So, Dad, for the first question, what do you wish you would have known about manhood?
Uh, I had a a friend of mine that said if being a man was easy, anybody could do it. And I found out that being a man has some serious difficulties to it, and there's an art to navigating manhood. Some of us get to a place where we know how to navigate it, and then others they just ain't got a clue. They have an idea of what they think manhood is, but uh, they're going about it the whole wrong way. They're doing the television version of manhood, and that's not how that works. That really is not how that works. Uh, it's a trial and error thing, and sometimes you can have a mentor, sometimes you can have an example, sometimes you can have a hero, sometimes you can have somebody that will steer you in the right direction. But when it comes down to the bottom line, uh, your your place in manhood is dependent upon you, and how you navigate this life's journey, and that will depend upon however you handle it. That will depend upon your position in this life, because life is what life is. Life is what life is, but it's what you make it that it brings a personal thing to you. So manhood, what I wish I had known about manhood was uh, just how difficult it is to maintain uh, that image of manhood and really know that that is the right thing that you're doing. Because like I say, some men think that they're being men, and they're really not. They're just going through the motions. They're doing the television version, and that's not the real deal. So that is my answer, and hopefully someone will want to chime in on that, or ask questions about it.
Okay. All right. So you and I, we have been on this discussion about the man cave, and
Hmm.
what that is. I know that stemmed from even another panel discussion that we were a part of or listened in on. So let's bring in everyone else to it. Um, Before we get into the cave, the next question would be, what's the difference between a cave, a man cave, and the doghouse? So I know for
Uh,
our conversation, we'll deal more with the cave itself. But
hmm.
in your opinion, what's the difference between a cave, a man cave, and the doghouse, especially for us women?
Okay. Uh, the cave. I mean, we'll just keep it down to a simple term. The cave is a place that the man goes for safety, for refuge, for a place where he can gather his thoughts, where he can get away from, and uh, a place of quiet, place of peace, uh, and it's a place where he can be himself, and he doesn't have to put that mask on. He can take his mask off, and he can be himself in his cave. Sometimes it's a place where you can close off the world. You close the world off. That's the cave. Okay. The man cave is a physical place where you may have it in your house, or it may be a little spot in your room. There, it's a chair. It could be just a small place where you can find out, okay, this is my spot. This is my man cave. This it's a physical place. Okay, the cave is like a mental place. It's a spiritual place. Okay, but now the man cave is a physical place that men go to find refuge and to find quiet. They may go down into the basement. They may have a room off to the side. They may have just to go downstairs or go wherever and sit in their chair and enjoy and just be quiet. Just decompress in that chair. That's a man cave. Okay. Now the doghouse is a place that women put men.
Hmm.
Okay. Women put men in the doghouse. Okay. That's a woman thing. Okay.
We got some women on
And
IG
men,
now, so yeah.
yeah, it's a woman thing
Mhm.
where women put men in the doghouse, and and sometimes he deserves it, and sometimes he don't. Sometimes he has no idea of why he's in the doghouse. Okay. and and a lot of times there's no explanation as to why he's in the doghouse. All he knows is that, man, I'm in the doghouse. I don't know why. So
Hmm.
uh that's basically the three places that men go. uh Two of them is pretty much voluntary, but the other one, not so voluntary, because I don't know too many men that voluntarily want to go to the doghouse, not unless things are so hectic in the house that the doghouse seems to be the best place to be, you know. But then they substitute the doghouse for their cave. You know, they can come out the doghouse, go to the cave, and then hey, I'm good, you know. So
That's
and
good.
that's the
That's
difference.
good. Yeah, so for those who are joining us on IG, hello, hey Gina, hey Danielle, and those of you who have hopped on. So I asked my dad the difference between the cave, the man cave, and the doghouse. He was breaking down the difference. He and I have been in a conversation about the cave itself, but I think a lot of us we may intertwine what that means. So according to, as Danielle said, Bishop Pops. Two of the places are voluntary. So the cave and the man cave are voluntary. The doghouse is where you are involuntarily placed in. Okay. So as a man, then how do you? We'll come back to the doghouse because that's a whole nother topic. But as a man, how do you survive the cave? Like how do you decide that that's where you're going to go? That's where you need to go. And as women, how do we support you, or what do we do when you're in the cave?
Well, sometimes I think it's best that if you see that your man is starting to withdraw and he's starting to get quiet, you know, the last thing you want to do is to nag at him, say, talk to me, tell me what's going on. I want to know, what's your problem? What can I do to help? Yada, yada, yada. Because all that sounds like wah, 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 wah. And what that does, that draws him deeper into his man cave or into his cave, into the cave. He goes deeper. You know, sometimes you can go to the back recesses of the cave and stay there for a while, you know, just to drown out the noise, you know, because sometimes the noise can be overwhelming. And when you have that in the house and you got all that noise outside the house, you know, you got to have a place to go, man, because otherwise you'll lose your mind. Really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a place where okay, man, I'm about to lose it. And so for self-preservation, the men have to retreat to the cave for self-preservation. Otherwise, they may you have some men that don't know when to retreat to the cave, and then they snap. They do stupid things. That's when they start beating on their wife, and they start, you know, doing unseemly things that they shouldn't, you know, because their anger has to go somewhere, their frustration has to go somewhere, their fear has to go somewhere, and so they take it out on the nearest somebody to them, and that's usually
Mm-hmm.
their mate. But if you ever get to that point where that's what you want to do, that's when it's time to go to the cave. It's time to back it up. Go to the cave, cool down, get your thoughts back together. Uh, you know, bring some peace about yourself, because the last thing you want to do is, you know, there's a song that many years ago that says you always hurt the one you love, and that's the one you shouldn't hurt at all. And it's like that because of the fact that, you know, if a man don't know when and how and at what time to retreat to the cave, he'll start doing some real stupid stuff that, you know, can really and truly hurt the people that he's supposed to love. And that's how a lot of tragedies happen. And sometimes, you know, these young fellas, they don't understand that they've got a place that they can go, you know, to get away from that. You know, sometimes it's best to just say, okay, turn around and walk away. If you got to go outside, get in the car, drive down the street, whatever, just to defuse that situation. Because sometimes women can put you in a position to where, they get to doing this right here, and they can take you there. Yeah, they can. Yeah, they can.
If I could interject though, this
Hmm.
is whether it's done not even in ill intent, that's how we're wired, right? We are we are designed to ask questions. We are inquisitive by
Yes,
nature.
your
And I
information. We
think
have to have information.
we gather information, and so I think sometimes it's we catch a bad rep because we have question. Yes, we have to learn each other more, and know how you all desire to be communicated with, all of that. But I think if you know, as hey, she's going to ask some questions, what can you do where you can meet them halfway that says, because I think a lot of times there's no conversation, is you just get annoyed or you snap, or you just say something that makes her feel good or that will shut her up in another way, right? Lack of a better term. So, what can you do to meet her halfway that says, "Hey, I'm in this cave." I know you're not going to say that like cave specifically, but what can be articulated so that we get something and we know to do this number?
uh, Sometimes it depends upon the level of respect that the woman has for her man. Okay. If she has very low respect for her man, doesn't matter what he says, she gonna come at him. And I will tell you right now that if you come at a man like a man, you're gonna get a man's response. Okay. And that's just the bottom line on that, man. And there are some women that'll push you to the limit. They'll take you to the hoop, man. And then if you mess around there and react uh inappropriately, next thing you know, you got the popo putting you in handcuffs. So you can't win no kind of way. But if there is a level of respect there that she understands that there are pressures that are out there that the man has to deal with, and sometimes he just needs time to figure it out. He just needs time. He doesn't need a lot of conversation. I can't talk about it. I can't tell you what's going on because I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I don't have all of the particulars that you're asking for. And because you're asking and because you're adamant about asking, that becomes very frustrating because of the fact that I don't have the answer. And so what that does, that's an attack on his manhood because he's
Mhm.
supposed to have the answer, but he doesn't. So uh, if it comes down to say, sometimes the man can say, well, baby, I realize you want answers, but right now I don't have them. Just give me some time and we can work this out. Okay. And hopefully that will diffuse any other kind of uh, uh, dialogue that will cause uh, something else to happen that ain't supposed to happen, or words be said that shouldn't be said. And that's it. And sometimes if the woman would just respect that the man ain't got the answers all the time. Sometimes he got to go off and regroup and talk with the Lord and let's have a good conversation with him so that he can get back to where he needs to be. Because right now, life is what life is, and it'll start throwing some curves at you, and there are some curves you ain't ready for. So you got to sit and regroup. And so I just say that the woman just has to respect the fact that the man don't have all the answers all the time, and you need to give him some space to get his head together so that he can come back and do what needs to be done.
Yeah. So I do want to circle back a little later and ask you how even daughters can support fathers while they're in the cave, right? Um, and so in transition a little bit to another question, and then I'll pose the one that you had for me. The next one was, why is it so hard for fathers to be vulnerable, right? And so, with you talking about the cave, sometimes you don't have the answers, you don't know what to say, right? I can only imagine how hard it is for fathers to even communicate what that is to a daughter, especially one that might be of adolescent age or even of adult age. So, why do you think it's so hard for fathers to be vulnerable, even to their daughter, someone that's separate from a spouse or a significant other? What are some of those obstacles that keep you all from being vulnerable with us?
Um, well, because the word vulnerable to a man is like the word submission to a woman.
Hmm.
Okay, okay, and
Mm.
that's the best way I can explain it. Uh, so if you can compute that, because the word submission to a woman, man, that's fighting words, man. And so and so being vulnerable to a man, that's almost a direct attack on his manhood. Okay, being vulnerable is a woman trait. That's not a man trait. Okay, and so that that that's like I say, that's a direct attack on his manhood. That's why it's so hard for a man to be vulnerable, because he does not want to show weakness. He can't. It's 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 like in the animal kingdom. Anytime an animal shows weakness, he in trouble, because the rest of the pack, they gonna jump on him. They gonna get him. You can't show vulnerability, because that's a sign that, okay, you ain't all man. And what I've learned over the years is that that is a force of strength. If you can be vulnerable and you'll yet still uh, keep your manhood intact. But see, that's why you have to be knowing who you are. You have to really and truly know who you are. It can't be no, like I said, you can't be no TV man. You got to be the real deal in order to be able to be vulnerable and yet still hold on to your manhood. That's and that's a something that doesn't come overnight. You got to grow into that. You got to grow into that, and you got to go through some trials and some errors, and you got to experience some things in order to realize and let it come to you that, okay, some things just ain't that serious. So yeah, it comes down to
Hmm.
that, that. But like I said, the word vulnerable is like the word submission. So
So, what word do we use instead of vulnerable? Since vulnerable is seen as a word that's not in you all's dictionary, right? What is that adjective then? What's the word?
uh, open, I guess that might be open, available. Uh, yeah, open and available. I think would be uh, would be a synonym to vulnerable, because
Okay.
vulnerable has so many negative connotations.
Hmm. So, with that, since you what helped us, and for those who have not read our book, my father and I, we co-wrote a book last year that dealt with a full circle healing of our relationship. We went through a few things, and so my father and I were able to hash it out. But what really helped was my father being open, and he was available to answer my questions. There was a moment where he couldn't be open. He was sometimes physically available, but he wasn't emotionally available to give me what I thought he should have given me at that time. And so that leads to the question that you had for me, Dad. It was, how does our past relationship affect my present dating relationship? I think that one, that's the one that you had directed just towards how I date now. And I think with me learning so much about you and you being open to your failures, why you didn't respond the way I thought you should have, and just learning more of your background, it helped me to be more open to whoever I date next. Sometimes we can have this preconceived notion, and not even intentionally, but we think the man should be this, or um, maybe I thought because they came from this background, they should have been this way. But you really showed me on the importance of just asking the question and how to ask it. I think sometimes as women, just because of what we see, the environment we have, especially like with our mothers, if we come from a heavy matriarchal family, we we take in however they communicate with men. But I think with you being open with me, I learned like, hey, you're gonna have to, you might have to step back a little bit. Um, and I love that Shanita put in the chat vulnerability with a woman. Um, Oh, that was a question. So I'm going to come back to that. Great question, Shanita. Um, it really opened up my perspective, Dad, and that I now know even the areas where I am going to need help. A friend of mine really broke it down for me because I know that I'm going to need help opening up initially. Um, when do I fall back? Making it a safe place for him, even in the beginning, like whatever those faults are, the same thing I want. Learning how he communicates, I think that was very helpful. And in speaking with other women who said, hey, I saw a lot of my dad in your dad, like, or he's no longer alive. I wonder if my dad dealt with the same thing that your dad dealt with. And I saw a lot of your story and people I dated in the past. And so for me, the our past relationship and where we are now, it really helped me kind of just, hey, let me be quiet a little bit more, but let me intentionally learn more about who he is. Like there was a greater respect for you, even with the faults, even with the things that you may not have been proud of. What really helped me was your honesty. That that was the best gift you could have given me. Because a lot of times fathers, men, we don't hear your side of the story. And so what happens, we perpetuate this dialogue, and we take that with us in relationships. We take that with us in marriages, and then we wonder why they don't work out. And so it opened up a door for me to even do more inventory on what are the trends in the family, not just you and I. That's why I was asking you and mom a lot of questions like, what happened on your side of the family? What happened on her side? Because there's nothing new under the sun. So it's okay, let me do some information gathering. Okay, I know, Daddy, you call women, we like to gather information. Let me gather information, and what needs to stop with me now that I have the information. What am I going to do with it? Um, And so I will say I am better prepared now to date, I believe. And even I can articulate where I know I'm going to have some opportunities. And I think that's another key thing where sometimes when you've always been the strong one or you're a woman, it's hard for us to sometimes be vulnerable based on past relationships. Like, can I trust you with this? But it's inevitable. And so just learning how men communicate. So I will say for that question that it has positively affected how I will date or how I would end up marrying. Um, you gave me something invaluable. So thank you for that.
I
Thank you
appreciate
for
that.
that.
That's
And so
that,
yeah,
that does me.
yeah, you gave
And
me something
I'm
invaluable.
glad I was able to give you something more than they lie. I'm glad it, but it all came down to that's the that's the crux of it. Sometimes is that they lie, But I didn't flesh it out for you, and so
No, you didn't tell me enough of. So for
yeah, I didn't
those, my
flesh it out,
dad, mm-mm,
and but that's
okay,
all I could give you at the time because I didn't
uh-huh,
want to go into too much detail because I was somewhat in that camp right there myself. So I didn't
uh-huh,
want I didn't want to expose too much, man. But yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah. Growing up,
Shanita,
y'all. Yeah,
huh?
she said vulnerability with a woman or a wife, is it not different when it comes to your child or your children? Or openness, since you say men don't use vulnerable. So openness with a woman or a wife, is it not different when it comes to your children?
Uh, is that question meaning that you are not as open with your children as you would be with your wife, or something to that effect, or
Or why
what?
wouldn't you be like,
Why wouldn't you be? Um, Well, there is a definite difference between how you respond to your wife rather than respond to your children, because your wife is supposed to be your helpmeet, your equal. She's supposed to be the one that is walking with you side by side, and so you're supposed to have some level of communication where you both understand where you need to be. Children are still in a learning process, and so they have to learn by example, and so you can't be friends with your kids. Okay, now you can have a level of openness. You can uh, make it so that they know that it's a safe place to come to ask questions, to receive instruction, um, uh, and also, observe uh, how men should treat their wives and wives should treat their husbands, and they can observe that. But you can only be so vulnerable because you don't want to be so vulnerable that they take advantage of it, because kids will take advantage of your weakness. If they see that they got an opening, they will wear you out. And if you don't show that, if you don't shore it up right quick, yeah, you'll be in a world of trouble because they'll take that thing to the max. So there has to be a difference between the openness and the availability and the vulnerability that you show to a mate or your wife than what you show to your children. There's got to be a difference. It can't be the same. Um, and and that's basically what that is. Hopefully that answers your question, Shanita.
mhm. Okay. So next question, Dad. What is your advice for men who have not received love and they struggle with loving others, especially their families?
Uh, Speaking from experience, it's very hard to give what you've never received, or your perception of what love should be or once again we look at that TV love, and I will tell you that there were times when I would see uh, commercials on TV, or watch some program on TV where the mothers are so doting and they're so loving, and and the kids are responding, oh mama, and it used to make me mad because I had no reference to that. I couldn't grab onto that because uh, my mother and we did not have the best relationship in the world, and it was we were not what you would call close. And so my mother was not, she just wasn't that kind of woman. She wasn't a nurturer. She wasn't a doter. You've had interaction with her. You know that my mama, she was just yeah. And
Well,
so
side note, she doted on
because
Lathan. I just throw shade
uh,
at my brother.
oh yeah,
She
well,
doted
yeah,
on
she
Lathan. Let
doted
me throw
on
shade on her.
yeah, she doted on Lathan. I mean, that was her favorite little grandchild. But for me, coming up, no, I didn't get none of that. You know, I didn't get none of that. Um, and because she came from a a a place where her mother was not that kind of person. My grandmother, man, she was about 4 foot 11, but she was the meanest somebody you ever want to meet. She was mean as a rattlesnake, and her and my mother, man, they was like oil and water, man. They just did not G and haul, man. I mean, and it was a thing where there was no nurturing, there was no love, there was no come here, baby, let me hug you. No, it wasn't like that. It just wasn't like that. And so I never grew up in that environment where you was getting all of this this sweet love, and it wasn't there. So when I came into adulthood, it was hard for me to translate that into a family life that I had of my own, and I had no point of reference. So you know I had to pretty much fake it till I make it, and it was and I think you know yourself, it was a difficult journey. It really was. You had no idea of the turmoil and uh, the the struggle that was going on, where especially when working on the fire department, in one instance I had to be you know separate and aloof from the situation because I had to do my job. And then I had to turn around and be a pastor where I had to come up with all of this compassion and love and caring, and I was I had dual personalities, man, and it was killing me. It was literally killing me, man. I was in bad shape, and I could not translate that to my family either. And so because I was trying to give something that I really did not. I had to manufacture, okay, and that was a very hard place to be.
So
Still
for
is.
men who are battling that, how do you overcome it if you come from that background where you don't receive love? Because I'm sure there are more men out there like that, or women who are in relationships, or daughters who have fathers who they're not able to show them the love that they think they deserve or that they want, right? So what is your advice for men who are in that position? Like, how do you, because it's only so long where, hey, I wasn't shown love. Okay, so what do you do in order to overcome that?
uh, well, a lot of times women will say, well, if I stay with him, I can change him, or I can make him this, or I can make him that. Nah, not so. The only one that can change a man is God. And for a man who has very limited exposure to what love is, it has to be a God thing now, you know, and that's where it has to start at. And so, uh, and that has to be something that God will have to show him. Okay, it's not something that you just read about, or you hear in sermons, or you sing about, or whatever. It has to be a tangible, real, physical feeling and knowing, and embrace that he has to feel, uh, to understand exactly what love is. And it's a God thing. And then once that happens, you can translate that into the physical life, the everyday, personal, people to people thing. But other than that, it's manufactured. It's not real. It's not real. And eventually something's gonna come along to throw some water on that thing there. You know, if it ain't real, it'll dissolve. It'll go away. It'll turn into something else. It'll morph itself into something else, and that's not a good place to be either. So it has to be a God thing, because God is love, and and in order for a man to really know what love is, it has to come from God. It really does. And then it can translate into other things. Uh, yeah, but you got to be able to hold it. You got to be able to feel it, and to know that this is what it is. This is the real deal. And so that's basically what that is. And it's easier said than done. It really is.
So with that, and I think that just goes for anyone, not just men, that God will be the source of that love. So even if you struggle loving as a woman, it all starts with that relationship with God. And so circling back to the cave, you and I were having this conversation before we went live, where you had this revelation of the cave, and God's version of the cave, right? And I think a lot of times when we feel rejected, or we don't receive love, or we don't know how to give love, what we do, our defense mechanism is, let me retreat to the cave. Caves are not just for men, right? I used to be
Mhm.
a pro at isolating
You was a
myself
cave
in a
dweller.
cave and
Yeah.
blocking.
Okay.
Oh man, I had a certificate. Okay, I could block you out now. But that was my that's what I consider my safe place. And so
Mhm.
let's bring in everybody on our conversation and your revelation of Psalm 91 and the cave, and why we think it's good, but in all actuality, the cave ends up doing more damage than good. So, what was your revelation of the cave?
Okay. Psalms 91.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I know that we've probably heard it, and we probably even quoted it, and but the revelation on this that God gave to me is that he that dwelleth in the secret place now of the Most High. Okay, so we're looking at the secret place of the Most High, which means that God has a cave. Hmm? That's his secret place. Men have secret places. God has a secret place. But the thing is that he that dwelleth in the secret place. In other words, you got to be able to to abide. You got to be able to live. You got to be able to dwell. And he said, if you abide in me and my word abide in you, then you can ask what you will. So in order for you to get into the secret place of the Most High, which means in order for you to enter into God's cave, you got to have him in you. Not anybody can just come into the cave. Okay. So you have to, there's a prerequisite to it. There's a stipulation there that says in order for you to enter into God's cave, because his cave is just opposite of ours. Our cave is where we retreat to get away from. His cave is where he invites you in. He welcomes you in. He protects you in that cave. But still there's a prerequisite. You've got to have him abiding in you in order for you to enter into that, enter into the joy of the Lord, enter into his cave. And so that is his secret place. And so once you have that and you enter the secret place and you can abide under the shadow of the Almighty. In other words, God is protecting you. And he says, and then I will say of the Lord. Now he's talking about God. Now he said, I will say of the Lord that he is my refuge. Once you get into that cave, once you get under his protection, then you can truly say, now this is where a man realizes what love is about. He said, he is my refuge and he is my fortress. He's my God, and in him will I trust. You know you can't trust everybody. You know everybody is not trustworthy. Okay? But in God's cave, you can trust that he will look out for you, that he will protect you, that he will be your refuge. You can trust that because that's who God is. And so like I say, God's cave is altogether different. It's just the opposite of our cave, of the cave that we go into. We go in there to get away from. God's cave is there where we can enter into and get protected.
Yep. Kevin said he has a master's degree in cave biology. Kevin, you're not the only one. Yeah. And as you were saying that, I looked up what dwell meant in Hebrew, and it says to sit down, remain, to stay, to cause to sit. A lot of us, we don't want to sit in it. We want to control it. And there is a scripture about isolation. It says, whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. It's in Proverbs 18:1. And it said he breaks out against all sound judgment. So I think for us who either still master in it or used to master in that cave biology or isolating ourselves, we fall prey to our own desire. That's when we become selfish. And my dad and I, we were talking about it, even the cave becomes an idol. What we are saying is, God, this is too big for you, or you really can't handle it. Let me go in my cave and see if I can find my own solution. And he just waiting there like, all right, let's see how well this goes. You'll be back.
Let's see how this works
and let's see how this works out for you. And so we just put ourselves in this cycle, and we wonder why, some of us, we will battle mental issues. No one can tell us anything, or we feel like no one understands or no one is seeing about us. But when you put yourself in the cave, what you were saying is hands off, like do not enter. I don't want to be bothered. And so I love that you found some revelation into, hey, God's cave is a little bit better. Okay. There's safety. There's trust there. And for those of you who have not even experienced being under the shadow of God's wing, there is nothing like it. Okay.
There's nothing like
there
it.
It's a
peace that passes all of God. It passes all of man's understanding.
It is a peace.
Yeah. It's a peace that you just can't explain. You can't explain to nobody, but you just know that everything's gonna be all right, And so, and like I say, that that was to me a true revelation. You know, when we was talking about the cave, you know, that it and it would just blew my mind to know that God's got a cave. God's got a cave. He really does. He's got a secret place. Okay, and it's just a wonderful thing that He offers this to us. Come on in. Come on in. Huh? And let me show you what it is, what a true cave should look like. Huh? This is his example of what our cave should look like. Huh? It shouldn't be a place of us getting away. It should be a place of us being into where we can invite others in and protect them in that cave. And
Mm-hmm.
it's an awesome example of the awesomeness of God and how much He
Mm-hmm.
loves us. This is about love right here, huh? That's how much He loves us, and that's priceless, man. You can't put any kind of monetary value on that. And
Yep.
Kevin, I appreciate you, man. I really do, man. But you might have a master's degree in caveology, but you know, see, you better learn me on on how to do that, man. You might have a master's, but I got a PhD, man. You know, so it's all good. It's all just call me doctor.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So we'll do one more question and then we'll close out. Thank you so much, Dad. Hopefully you all have found this conversation beneficial for those who are on IG. Thank you for hopping on as well. Any questions? Any questions? Or any thoughts? And I love that one she put sweet love started with the generation who were raised on tough love.
Mm,
Absolutely. I'm one who was raised on tough love, and I think having nephews, it's almost other people force you on doing the sweet love. But I am a recipient of tough love, and it's hard not to give tough love and kind of get out of it. But great comment there. Any questions for me or my dad before we close it out? Yep, Kevin, y'all got work to do. It's okay.
yeah,
We
work.
all have work to do. Okay. We all do, sir. It is okay.
Yeah,
Any
we're
last
all a
question?
work in progress. We are all a work in progress, and the
Mm-hmm.
only one that don't need any work on him is God. That's the only one that don't need no work, because he got
Mm-hmm.
he got it all under control. He know who he is. He know what the deal is. He know what your deal is before you even know what your deal is. So he the only
Mm-hmm.
one that don't need to have no work done on him. But the rest of us, we are work in progress. We are work in progress.
Yeah.
But I thank God for the fact that He knows our expected end. He knows our expected end, and all we're doing is just working toward it. And it's a journey. It's a journey. But the song says, "I wouldn't give nothing for my journey now." I wouldn't give nothing for my journey. I thank God for every dip in the road, every bump in the road, every turn in the road, every down in the hill and every uphill. The journey is worth it when you get to the point where you could actually, you know, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. It's an awesome place to be. Awesome.
It's a awesome place to be. So one question that hey Bev, thank you for hopping on. So April had a question. How do you get past when you never had the love of a father? I can start off with that and Daddy, you can chime in. It's a very good question. April, what I had to do, I had to go back to the foundation. Um, this book even opened it up. The book my father and I wrote, it opened it up to me where I had to go back to God's love for me. Because I think a lot of times, and we predicate, okay, I'm empty because I don't have the love of my natural father when you've always had the love of your spiritual father. And so, for those of you who either don't have a personal relationship with God and you're learning about it, or those who do, this is so pivotal. I was listening to a podcast, and this really confirmed it, with Tim Ross and his wife. And she said her mom would just reiterate over and over, like every year of her life, because her dad was pretty absent. And she reminded her every year, you have a heavenly father who loves you, who thinks nothing but the best for you. And so I had to go back to that, and it helped heal my heart, and then even heal the relationship with my dad and my expectations of him that maybe he cannot meet. That he is human, but I have a spiritual father that his rapport is excellent. He is top tier. His love is unconditional. Um, he actually sacrificed, sent his only son to die for me and my raggediness and my sins. Like, when I go back to him, even when I move away, he's still the same. And so that thought of, to the person who created me, yes, my natural father, it was his sperm that helped me get here, but he's not my ultimate creator. And so once I flipped my mentality and I really dove back into the word of, God created me, he had intention about me. He knew even before the foundation, before this world was created, my dad and I were going to have issues. He knew all that was going to take place, but he still was love. He still loved me. His thoughts never changed about me. He still thinks where he's going to give me an expected end, a future, and a hope. Even if my dad lets me down, my natural father lets me down, God won't let me down. And that changed my perspective. And so, what I would encourage you to do is go back to the love of your spiritual father. And that will help you love your father from a place, even if he's no longer living, that will help you even resolve some unforgiveness in your heart. But it helped me where I didn't have these expectations of my dad he couldn't meet. Like, even now, there are some things that my dad probably won't be able to meet, and it's okay. Like, I love him for Lewis Wood, for what he can offer me, for who he is. He helped me get into this world. And even when he lets me down, even when he had already let me down, I still have a God who's been consistent. Like, that's my mainstay. We were just talking about Psalm 91. That's my buckler. Like, that's my refuge. And so I would encourage you, go back to your first love. Go back to the one who created you and allow him to heal those places. He can heal those places where your natural father let you down. Those places where they are unresolved. He can heal all of that, but you have to allow him. You have to go into God's cave, as my dad called out, and hide under that secret place. And in that secret place, there's some peace. There's in that secret place, there's some resolution, there's some healing that you can't really articulate to others, but you know that only God can do that. And so I invite you to go back and dig back into the word, go back to the foundation, go back to your heavenly father. That that's your standard. That's the standard. And no human can meet it at the end of the day. No human can meet that standard. So when man lets you down, I can still go back to God, who's going to be the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So I hope that helps you. But that's the basic answer I have for you. Go to the love of God, your Father, and that will help the tenderness of your heart and wherever your natural father let you down. So hopefully that helps you there.
Uh,
Um,
I think Kevin asked the question, how
mhm,
does a person receive God's love?
mhm,
Um, Once again, we have to go back to that word vulnerability. We have to be in a place where we realize that we cannot do this thing on our own. We can't do it by ourselves. We're not an island unto ourselves. And And no matter how much we think that we're strong enough to take on this load, we have to understand that we are a creation of God. He knows all about us. And we have to get ourselves into a position to where we want to open our heart, open our mind, open our spirit, open our life, and let him come in. And then he will start to do the healing. He'll start to do the mending. He'll start to do the get rid of the old stuff and put the new stuff in. And but we have to allow him to do that. And so how does the person receive God's love? You have to be in a vulnerable position to say, God, I need you. Huh? You know, we have to be to the place where we say, I need you. And, not where we're trying to do it on our own, but we need God to help us do what we need to do and to lead and guide us into all truths. And he will show you what love is. You know, there's a song that Babby Mason made, or I think it was, said, I want to know what love is. I want you to show me. And that song has always got to me because I always want to know. I want to know what love is, and the only way for you to really know is that you have to allow God to come in and show you exactly what that is, and that's where you can abide in His secret place, and that's a beautiful place to be. So, Kevin, we appreciate you being on the air with us, man. We thank you. Thank you. We really do. We thank you, Sunita, and all the others uh, that came in and joined with us on this journey. And I just want you to know that I appreciate it. I really do, because I know that uh, uh, the journey that we're on, my daughter and I, and we're not alone in it. We're not an isolated situation. There are many, 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 many stories just like ours. Only it's just that there's been no platform. There's been no place for people to articulate how they feel and what's going on and going through that healing process. So I'm really thankful to my daughter, and I'm thankful to the Lord for having this room to be able to say something, you know, and give our side, give my side of the story, because a lot of times that is it's been so neglected. Everybody else is, all for the woman and don't never get the man side. And so I'm thankful that I've gotten the chance to give the man side of it. And this won't be the last. We gonna come back and see about y'all. Yeah, we are.
Yes, thank you so much, cuz Shanita, thank you for hopping on. Dad, thank you for kicking this off. This was my first TLIG live, and of course I had to invite my dad here. He will be back, of course. So TLIG live will be every third Monday of the month. You'll be able to catch the replays on YouTube, IG, and Facebook. Um, It'll be open dialogue. Today, we really we dived into manhood. My dad broke it down: the cave, the man cave, and the doghouse. That's what really kicked off the conversation. But the topics will change each month. So if you have any topics that you want us to cover, feel free to send those over. Catch the replay. If you have questions that you have later, we can answer those in the chat as well. I appreciate you all taking time on a Monday evening to join us. If you can subscribe to the TLIG YouTube channel, it's very new. Set that up, and we're still on social media at This Life is Ghetto to promote the book. If you have not grabbed your copy um, of the book that I co-wrote with my father last year. It is called This Life is Ghetto. It is available online wherever books are sold. So if you are an audio person, you can grab it on Audible. It's available on paperback and even ebook on some platforms, but we greatly appreciate it. Please share this with others. And let me make sure we have no other questions. We are good to go. So we love each and every one of you all. Dad, any final thoughts? Hey, Kisa. Any final
Um,
thoughts?
well, praise God. We thank God for Keisha because is that the lady from Ohio? Is that the folks?
Yes,
Oh,
that
that's
is
your cousin.
she's one of the cousins. That yeah,
She's one of
she's
your
one of
cousins.
the
Is
Peterson.
that a
She's part
that's a
of the Peterson
Peterson from
clan.
that's a
Uh-huh.
Peterson clan from Abbeville.
No, she lives in
Okay,
Tennessee. No, this
she
is
lives in
Mr.
Tennessee.
Pease. This is Ohio Peterson.
Oh,
Yeah, not the
Mr.
cousin
Peterson.
Peterson.
Yeah, that from Ohio.
That
Yeah, I
Peterson.
know. Okay,
Yeah. Hey, Kisa.
that Peterson. That's the Peterson.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for joining us, Keisha. I appreciate that. No, I'm once again, I'm just thankful for the platform, and I pray that those that are tuning in right now will be with us again next month, and we'll explore other topics. And I'm gonna be right here. I'll be a little fly on the wall here, and I'm gonna support my daughter. And so we're thankful for the conversation that we had tonight, and we pray that somebody got something out of it, and you know, uh, I'm looking forward to more in-depth conversations because this is not for the faint of heart. This is where we have to be honest with each other. We ain't got nothing to sugarcoat. That we got too much of that. Yeah, we got too much of that. So we come, straight and uncut, and that's what that is. Straight with no chaser,
Dad, what you know about that? Talking about straight with no chaser. All right, y'all.
baby.
It's time to exit. My daddy tried to use slang. So yes. So thank you all. We'll be back on next month, the third Monday. Appreciate you all. And that is the end. Have a great evening.
Have a great evening. Boom, 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 boom.